Swider Man. He's getting all the attention now.
Ooh, I like that. Swider Man. That might be Cole's new nickname.
Swider basket and a foul.
Paddy, Casey. Swider answered back.
Swider from deep. Laces the three. Swider. And one. Count the bucket.
Welcome back to the Swider Show, everyone. We are back this week. And yeah, man, it's been a good couple of weeks. Obviously, I've been up and down between the G League and the NBA. Got to see my boy Adam Lewis in Miami this past week. Jake Sheridan is coming off of a spring break where he was doing his thing, and then Paddy. I mean, we haven't really talked as much. How has your last 2 weeks been, man?
It was good. It was boring for the listeners. I don't know if we want to go into the ones and twos on that, but I'm honestly intrigued. I feel like the listeners will love if Adam Lewis gives us a blow-by-blow of how his trip was.
I think it might as well.
That was a big-time NBA matchup he saw between the Heat and the Nugs. So, Adam, I feel like you just take the floor here because every time you do, it's electric.
Yeah, I'll just go on a little run here really quick. I took a community bus, we'll call it. It's like a classic Greyhound bus over from Orlando to see Swider last Tuesday night. And it literally arrived in Miami, and 10 minutes later, I was on the floor of the Miami Heat arena, shooting the rock a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you pronounce that?
I didn't pronounce it for a reason.
Kaseya Center?
Yeah, I didn't say it for a reason.
I don't know if it was Kaseya, Casea.
Kaseya.
Yeah, you wish it was Casey.
Yeah, I do.
We got on the floor right away because the practice facility court was being used for a kids camp, I think. So me and Swider and his trainer Tim went over there. He got some shots up. I got a couple rebounds, made a couple layups. I think one free throw over 2 hours, which is acceptable. And then some DoorDash that night. Nice. It was like a salad bowl. I got salmon and steak. It was really good. Next morning, some coffee with both Swider, and then I went out to breakfast with Tim. And let's thank some rooftop pool time in the sun while Cole got ready for his game that night. Heat Nuggets, and then shout out Jay Vassallo, Cole's stylist. We all got dinner together in South Beach. I'm blanking on the name. What's the restaurant, Swider?
Carbone. Shout out to Carbone.
Carbone.
Oh, there's a Carbone in New York. I can't come close to affording it, but there is one in New York.
Neither can I. That's why we did it last week. So it was really fun. It was a good spring break.
Yeah. If anyone listening doesn't follow Jay Fasala, you should follow him. I'm assuming you follow Swider. I'm assuming you follow the show. All the fit pics are directly related to Jay.
Yep. Shout out Jay, man. Jay and I went to high school together, and he's actually a Syracuse guy. His parents live in Syracuse. He grew up in Syracuse. And,
played at Lemoyne, no?
Played at Lemoyne, yep, for a year. Then a year or two, then went to Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And, so great dude, obviously. Has done wonders with my style. Wonders with my style.
It's night and day. It really is.
Night and day. So shout out to Jay. He does a great job. He's really blown up, too. He has, Adam, what was he telling us? He has, 7 to 10 NFL clients. He has, 5 to 7 NBA clients, so he's really blown up. He's really doing his thing. So shout out Jay, but yeah, Paddy. I mean, let's just cut to the chase, man. We talked about us. We talked about spring break. We talked about all those things. Let's just cut to the chase. First off, I see the comments on Twitter. I see the comments on Instagram. There's been a little bit of a back and forth between Syracuse Nation and the job that Red Austria did. I know we're homers, we're biased, but 21 and 21. What was the final record, Adam? 20 and 13, 20 and 12.
2012, I think, right?
2012 in his first year, taking over for a legend. Had six soft.
We might be giving them another L. Keep talking. I'll look it up.
No, I'm pretty sure it was 20 and 12. I think 2012 sounds right. But 20 and 12 obviously took over a team that was very, very young. And I thought he did a great job. Obviously, we started out the year losing to these bigger time teams, and honestly losing in blowout fashion. And by the end of the year, we were competing. We beat UNC on our home floor. Probably our best win in the past, I mean, at least since the Sweet 16 run, the most important win. Obviously turned down a bid to the NIT. So I think overall it was just a great first year, and I think there's going to be more and more to come. We have a great recruiting class coming in. Adam and I were marveling over one of our recruits scoring 67 points in his high school senior game. So obviously there's a bright future coming. We have Donnie Freeman coming in, who's a top 35 recruit, and we'll see who stays. Obviously we've lost Justin, Kadir, and Benny so far in the transfer portal, which I wouldn't say I'm shocked to see any of those guys go. I wish we could have kept all three, but
you really can't be shocked by like anyone at this point. It's just part of it.
Yeah, I think you expect 2 to 3 on at least on any team, but not everyone's gonna be happy. And I think right now we have a good core intact, and I'm excited for year 2 of the Red Autry experience.
Yeah, I mean, also, first of all, you were correct. It was 2012 because I never count. I always forget to count the postseason tournaments into the final record. But the other thing that I understand from Q's fans' point of view, and like I'm sure we all had the same thought, it was NC State winning it in a way. Like it's like, oh well, we lost to who won the tournament, but then it's like, damn, the path was there. Like if we could have just played well, we beat them once. Like, I mean, I know Chris Bell went out of his mind, but it's like you beat them at NC State. It's like, all right, well, first round we're going to get this dub, and then from there it's like you're kind of rolling. But yeah, it's tough. I see both sides of it. Also, the other thing, talking about the ACC tournament, you know that's the first time a double-digit seed has ever won it?
I mean, 5 games in 5 days is a tough thing to do.
Yeah, that is wild. But I was just like kind of surprised by that because there's been so many teams in the conference for like, I guess what at
10
least
years?
like 10 years now, and then even before that it was like, but yeah, it's besides the point. Like you're saying, I think they'll just like retool. I have like a lot of confidence in Red and in the crew to just like get their guys in and basically hit the ground running next year.
And I think the job that he did in the transfer portal last year was very impressive. I'm excited for the job he does this year in the transfer portal. I know we're already linked to a couple guys who, I mean, the transfer portal has been open for like, 60 hours, 70 hours. And we're already linked to a couple guys in the portal. And I know, like, one thing that you can count on with Red is that he's going to do a great job recruiting. That's going to be number one, first and foremost. I think that's probably one of the main reasons he was such an easy replacement for Coach Boeheim, because you know the job he does recruiting. And obviously this year he showed what he could do in the X and O standpoint and coach the team and have the team get better throughout the year like a Syracuse team always does.
Right. From a guy like yourself who is in the transfer portal, can you explain, like, what is the first 12 hours like for guys that are in the portal? Because I'm sure as a fan, like I was in the portal once upon a time.
Yep.
I think I put my wrong phone number in the portal in my information because I did not receive one single call. But for a guy like yourself who input it correctly, are you just like, is your phone just blowing up right away? Like I'm sure you've talked about it on the pod where you kind of have prospects beforehand, but I guess for like these hundreds of guys that are getting in it, like what is the process as soon as you enter?
Yeah, I think the process starts as soon as your season's over. Obviously, you think about it before the season's over, but as soon as the season's over, I remember I talked to my dad, my mom, my high school coach, and maybe even Tim. Tim might have been on that conference call. And basically the whole entire thing was, all right, am I going to stay? Am I going to go? And then once we decided that I was going to leave, what are some of the schools that we could target, and maybe Coach Hart could get on the phone and before I get in the portal have a good idea of maybe some teams. Obviously had a conversation with Coach Wright, got into the portal maybe like 2 or 3 days later, and it worked out really well because Syracuse just ended their season as well. They lost in the Sweet 16 the same exact time as we lost in the Sweet 16.
Oh, right.
And their process of trying to find guys was very similar to mine. So I remember going in the portal, and I had like, it's weird because you'll get like these weird texts from like, I remember getting a text from like Tulsa and Alabama and like places
you're not expecting to hit you up there.
Yeah, just like weird schools like like I don't know, like Bryant hit me up, which is all cool. Like I would shoot my shot too if I was one of those little major schools if I'm trying to come home, right? I remember Jared Grasso hit me up, who was the head coach of Bryant at that time. He was like, if you want to be the leading scorer in the Division I basketball next year, come home and play for me at Bryant.
You think you would have outdone Peter Kiss?
Man, that would have been a lethal duo in
Like
the
55 combined a game?
in the NEC. Yeah, no, for real. But yeah, so shortly thereafter, I was just getting a bunch of texts, but I got a call from Coach Boeheim and GMAC probably 2 or 3 minutes after I entered the portal.
Yeah.
And then after that, 3 days later, I made my decision. But it was really hectic. I remember making a list of like my top 5 schools of the schools that I really wanted to focus on. But after, I didn't want to waste anybody's time at that point, and
Right.
I couldn't even visit campuses at that point either. Like with the COVID restrictions, there was no official
right.
visits or anything like that. So my decision was quick, and also at the same time, like these schools are, the transfer portal isn't like high school recruiting where like guys aren't going to make a decision till like the fall or spring. Like people are making decisions in like a week.
Right, because you want to get there before it's like the spot's taken up.
Exactly. So, and I knew Syracuse was the school for me.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of guys like yourself, too. I mean, JJ did the same thing, JJ Starling last year, where it's like he ended up, I mean, Cuse was seemingly his second choice to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So when you hit the portal, there's already that relationship there. And I know that's similar with GMAC, where he hit you up, and it's not like you were saying in high school where you're kind of like getting familiar with each other. He's like, no, it's you already knew the pitch, and it's like, yeah, I'm coming.
Yeah, no, it was. I couldn't believe how seamless it was, like talking to GMAC again when I went to the portal. It felt like I was like back to being 18, a top 35 recruit in the country, just like being wanted. And that was the biggest thing for me, is just like being wanted and going to a place where I could really like reinvent myself and find myself again on the basketball court. And you know, I've talked about this a bunch of times. Like Syracuse did that for me. I found that place, but it's not that common in the transfer portal to find a place like that. Like I'm probably, I mean, there's definitely more guys now just because there's obviously more transfers going out. But I remember Coach Wright like telling me, he's like, man, like there hasn't been a lot of guys who transferred me who've been successful. Like, like that's not always the best way to go. So, and he showed me the guys, and a lot of those guys weren't successful. But I got lucky being able to go to a great school, play for a Hall of Fame coach, play in one of the best conferences in the country, still have that exposure on me, and then obviously it led me to where I'm at now.
Yeah. The grass isn't always greener, as they say. My final question on the transfer portal thing. I saw my guy, John Fanta, making this argument, who he might be my top college basketball guy right now. Just a great follow, great on interviews.
Yeah.
He does it all. But he was arguing that this week it's like kind of lame that kids are able to enter the transfer portal because it is the best week in the history of in the calendar year of the sport.
Yeah.
Arguably in any sport, and all eyes are on college basketball. So his argument is like these next couple days it should be talked about, like the matchups, which we're going to get into, your bracket, who's going to make the Final Four, just chopping it up about the tournament. And now it's like you end up having this conversation about like, oh, you saw this kid hit the portal. I wonder where he'll end up. And it's just taking it away from like the actual product on the court.
Yeah. I see both sides. I mean, my sister Kylie just entered the transfer portal as well, and I know it was like a big thing for her to finally just feel like that there was like that point in the season where she could hear from other schools and kind of get that process going. But I don't know. I kind of agree with that because at the same time it gives the schools who are not playing an advantage, right? And like maybe Syracuse plays in the NIT if the transfer portal isn't open for another week or a week and a half, 2 weeks, right?
That's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
I think because now it's like, all right, like our season's over. We can focus on next year. We can start recruiting guys in the portal.
Right.
Like right now, you're almost at a disadvantage if you play in the NIT. For recruiting guys, right? Like, and then you're also kind of not handcuffing because guys can still enter the transfer portal if you're in the NIT, but obviously those guys probably aren't playing major minutes on the team.
It just seems like one of those things that the NCAA didn't fully figure out before they launched this rule. Because like you're saying, like your sister, it's not her fault. It's not Justin Taylor's fault that he's entering it this week. But
No,
I mean, like,
it's purely
they have to do that because it's just the nature of how it is. But then like fans end up getting mad because it's like, I don't know, like we're talking about this rather than the actual bracket. So
yeah,
I
would say it's
thing that was just like thrown together.
Yeah, I would say that's a purely an NCAA like
Exactly.
lack of just being aware. And
Yeah.
I don't know, who knows? Maybe Charlie Baker comes in here and cleans everything up, and we have a lot better things going on with the NCAA. But obviously, this administration with the NCAA hasn't always like thought things through before just passing NIL, right? Like just passing the transfer portal. Just like let's just like obviously COVID's going on. Everyone can play now. Everyone gets an extra year. It's just like I don't know. It's been strange. Like we have 26-year-olds in March Madness, like.
Yeah, playing right now. Seth Towns on Howard. I
Yeah.
think they're about to take it.
Obviously,
I mean, there's more than him, but he was the first one that came to mind because he was gaining a bunch of traction.
yeah, he's an anomaly, but he
Because he got hurt a bunch, right?
he got hurt a bunch. But
Right.
there's guys in my class who reclassed in high school and have done 2 extra years in college, and it's like, bro,
Yeah.
you're 25, 26, bro. Like, it's time.
Yeah, get a job.
Or just like
I know, but
I mean-
also that's another thing that's not their fault. Because like, would
It's
I
not.
rather be
It's
working
not.
my 9 to 5 right now or playing, shooting guard at North Carolina? Not to name names, I probably would rather be playing at North Carolina.
well, and also all these guys are probably making $200,000 in the transfer portal.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're not going to go to the G League
Damn.
and make $200,000.
Yeah. That's a good point, too. I didn't even think of that part either. You're making a
Yeah,
bunch of
Paddy.
good points.
Not just a hat rack over here.
So without further ado, actually, I want to start with Conference Chip Week. Any takeaways from the team? I'm always kind of weary of teams that, make a run.
Yeah. No, I think this year more than ever we had a bunch of bid stealers. We had a bunch of teams who
NC State.
NC State, I mean the Mountain
A-10.
West,
Yeah.
the A10, the American Conference,
Oregon,
Pac-
good call, Sheridan. Good call, Sheridan.
Pac-12,
Oregon.
yeah. And I think there's just a lot of teams that just got squeezed out of the tournament because of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, our good friend, the third member of the Wolfpack, Dan Fitzpatrick,
Yeah.
his fighting Johnnies, fighting Rick Pitino's didn't get into the tournament this year, which I thought was a tough draw. But yeah, no, it's just it was a weird year in that aspect, and I think a lot of teams it's just so weird how the committee was able to put a team like Michigan State firmly in the field. And then a team like St. John's and Providence were Providence is a 3 seed in the NIT. They weren't even close.
Right.
It's
It's just weird. I feel like there's teams that were on the bubble that were just 8 seed, 9 seed. Like you're saying,
Yeah.
Michigan State. Who else? I was looking at it yesterday.
Texas.
Dayton.
Texas was
Dayton.
firmly
I
in.
thought they were gonna fall. Texas is a 7 seed. I don't know. Yeah, it was bizarre. And then there's teams like people were saying Boise State was firmly in, and now they're in a play-in. You know what I mean?
Even a team like Wisconsin, and even Clemson, Clemson's a 6 seed.
Or are you
Obviously,
saying they should be lower or higher?
I mean, I thought they were gonna be 8, 9.
Dude, I love Girardi more
Yeah.
than anyone in this world. I thought they were on the bubble. I was not sweating. I was no, they'll definitely get in. But
Yeah, no,
I
me
thought they were
too.
gonna be a 9, and then it came on the selection show. They were a 6. I was like, oh shit. I mean, good for them. I'm very happy about it.
But
They
I'm
got them in my Sweet 16.
were,
but
were they even? They haven't been in the top 25 for the last 2 weeks, and they've been
right,
losing games.
yeah. And if you're a 6, it's you're top 24 firmly.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know,
It was just a very weird field, and I also think the bias of Clemson kind of getting screwed last year. I think that plays a factor.
Oh, you think that plays into it?
I think it plays something.
Right.
Like
That's a good call, actually.
I'm not as mad about Pitt as a lot of these people are. Syracuse beat them twice, and how come we're
Yeah.
so far out of the field?
Yeah, it wasn't even a thought.
We weren't even a freaking thought. And
Wait, also... Oh, no, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
No, I wasn't like I think Pitt should have been in, but I also think if you're gonna say Pitt's gonna get in, like Syracuse had to be on the bubble. Like
Yeah.
there's no rhyme
It
or
was
reason.
kind of funny podcasting last time when we had our guy Jake Marsh on.
Yeah.
It was Monday night, and we just spent 20 minutes complaining about how Syracuse wasn't on the bubble and like all this shit. With like, we were just assuming they were going to beat Clemson, then they lost, and that conversation just meant nothing.
Yeah,
But my question is, do you think the projections were, since they were like a 10-point underdog, do you think they factor in like, oh, they're probably going to lose tomorrow? You know, like how we were saying. Because after the fact, actually, I'll give Adam his flowers right now. I think the projections that we were complaining about with Jake, that like they weren't even on the radar, was probably they were projecting a loss to Clemson, right?
I mean, I assume so, but that's like I don't know, like yeah.
Even still, though, I mean, the fact that they weren't even on the radar. How many wins does Clemson have? I hate going at Clemson because I'm rooting for them real hard.
No,
What do they have, like
Clemson
21 wins?
Clemson should have been in the field without a doubt.
Our
I'm just
point
saying-
is, if they're a 6th seed, then like Pitt and Cuse probably should have been at least on the bubble. Yeah, they were also 21-11.
That's what I'm saying.
Weird.
Like it's just
It's just
very
confusing.
Weird. Yeah.
But without further ado, should we get into the brackets? I want to do some categories. Right,
Let's get into the brackets. Let's do it.
I also, after the bracket, I think we should talk about Mind the Game, because I listened to it
Let's do it.
right
Let's
before
talk.
this. But let's go March Madness first. I think that makes more sense. That's the reason for the season. All right, let's go region by region. We'll start in the East.
Okay.
I listened to part of Rothstein today on PMT, called this the region of gladiators. But for my first question here, do you think UConn kind of got screwed with like them just putting every power conference tournament winner in the field, or vice versa? Because my take is kind of different on that.
I don't know. I think UConn's probably the best team in the country, no matter what. I think they're probably
So
going
do
to
I.
get there. Like, they can win in so many different ways. You saw how they beat St. John's. You saw how they've won games like in the '60s this year. I don't know. I don't really see anyone beat UConn in that East region. But go ahead. Dude. Let's get to the breakdown of the East.
No, my thing was just, you could look at it one of two ways. Like Illinois, Iowa State, I think was going to be a 2 either way. They probably had an argument for a 1 after they beat the shit out of
No, they didn't.
Houston?
They didn't have an argument for a 1.
They should have. Like, I would be hot if I was a Cyclones fan right now. I don't know if there's any tuning in, but if you beat Houston that bad, then it's like, why shouldn't we have the 1 seed over Houston? We played them yesterday and beat them by 30.
Sheridan, what's Iowa State's record?
1 sec. Let me pull it up for you guys. They finished the season 27-7. And like I was just saying in the chat, they got screwed over because since UConn is the number 1 overall seed, that means they're not the 5th overall team in the bracket. So they're in
they're
that
8.
6 to 8 region. The 1 and the 5 cannot be in the same region, but I think Iowa State does beat UConn in that region final.
You have that?
I have
Yeah,
that.
we're jumping to the Final Four. All right.
I'm just gonna get my
That's
2
fine.
cents in now.
I love it. Just gotta jump at the bit whenever you get the opportunity to speak.
No, I like
love
it.
Sheridan.
I like it. So Patty, let's go with your. Let's just obviously everyone's got UConn over Stetson. I would assume. Let's
Yeah.
I
don't think.
Let's focus on like 8, 9 to 3,
Yeah, I'm saying I think each region
6
would
to
go.
11.
Do you have any big upsets to note? Any big surprises?
UAB over San Diego State.
You got a 12-5. What's the reasoning there? You just think San Diego State they had their moment last year?
Yeah, I always think like when a team is like hot as of last year, and I don't think they should have been a 5 seed. I didn't get that. They were a 4 or 5 seed in the Mountain West, and they could be a 5 seed. And also, I think UAB is a sneaky pick because they're obviously rolling right now. They just won the American Conference, and I think Andy Kennedy is a really good coach. So I think I got UAB beating San Diego State in that matchup. And also, I don't really like the way San Diego State scores the basketball. They play through Jadion Lee, who's he averaged, I think, 9 points a game last year on the national championship team, and this year he averages 20 points a game. So obviously,
he was a second-team All-American now.
Yeah, he's a big time player, and that's really my only. And then I have Drake over Washington State.
Yeah, I got Drake BYU in the Sweet 16. BYU in the Elite Eight. That's probably my biggest bold prediction from that region. Lewis?
I like BYU as well. I actually have Auburn beating UConn in the Sweet 16, so I have Auburn going pretty far. I just want to put that out there. I think UConn's unbelievable, but I think they're gonna get scared a little bit, surprised in a couple weeks.
I just think that they'll have a bad half and be down 6, and that's all they'll need, and then they'll just come out and win the game by 12.
Yeah, did you have you looked back at their scores last year?
Oh, it was ridiculous. It was kind of
closest margin of victory was 17 in the national championship. They beat the shit out of everyone.
It reminded me of that 2018 Nova run.
Yeah, it was just after the fact. It was damn, how did we not all know this? That they were way better than everyone else.
Well, they also lost 6 in a row in the Big East.
Yeah, but when you watch them play, it's what the hell? They were a 4 seed last year too, which is crazy.
Crazy.
Sheridan in the chat says he's giving us orders. Say how UConn Auburn will be the game of the tournament if you want.
No,
I want it to, Sheridan.
I think it.
The only problem is when it gets to March Madness, there's not the guarantee that UConn Auburn is a game.
Yeah. Well, I think if Auburn does get to UConn, they survive San Diego State, because I haven't gone that far. It will be the most watched, besides maybe the national championship. It'll be the game of the tournament.
That is a juicy matchup. I like that.
Okay, so let's pick the winner out of the East region. I obviously have UConn.
I have UConn. Does anyone else not have UConn?
I've got Auburn coming out of there over Iowa State.
I have Iowa State over UConn.
Wow.
Sorry, what do you have? UConn, Iowa State?
UConn over Illinois.
Okay, don't hate it. I was gonna say boring if 1-2. Let's go to the West. The West is headlined by North Carolina, 2-seed Arizona. Colgate in the West region, traveling from Hamilton, New York. Make that make sense. But any updates or any upset? I might have just teased one there. Any upsets we got here? Swider lit it off.
I got Grand Canyon over St. Mary's.
Wow,
I really like
12-5 guy this year.
I really like Tyon Foster Grant. I think he's going to have a big NCAA tournament. He transferred from Kansas. Big time player, and that's really my only. I'm basically chalk. Besides that, I got my boy Girardi. I know the New Mexico Clemson game is a big game on people's radar as an upset, but I'm not going against my guy Girardi, at least for the first round. And I got Michigan State over Mississippi State. Besides that, I'm chalk.
Bush.
Yeah, on that topic, I'm going to kick myself for going after the ACC this early, but I have Clemson falling to New Mexico. I've also got Colgate winning in the first round. My sister goes to Colgate, and when I was a kid, when Binghamton made the tournament one time in 2009, I picked them. So I'm that kind of kid. I'm just going to throw Colgate in there and hope for an upset.
Did they win? They didn't win.
No, they played Duke.
Did Binghamton win a game?
No, I think they lost by 30. It was 1 year.
That would have been sick if they won.
Yeah.
I like that reasoning, though. That's usually when you do better in a bracket. My take I have here, you said New Mexico over Clemson. I hate when, New Mexico right now, betting odds. I dabble in sports gambling. I think they're, -2 right now against Clemson. So then if you have that, if you say that, people are like, oh, well, it's not an upset. They're -2. Can you just let me, have the, little kid one shining moment brain where it's oh, my God, an 11 seed beat a 6 seed. That's an upset? And not just rain on it and be oh, they're actually favored. Shut
I'm not giving it to you, Paddy. I'm not giving it to you. I'm just not going to give it to you.
I actually have Clemson picked, so that would be an upset.
He got you there. Wow. That was masterful.
What a yeah, just like running the ones and twos on Swider.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What is my big one? I got the College of Charleston beating Bama. For no other reason than I wanted to spice it up a little bit. I got like chaos in this region, sort of. Mississippi State beating UNC.
Wow.
And then because there's always a 1 seed that doesn't make the second weekend every single year.
Last year
there was 2 that fell.
I don't hate that pick, but I think UNC is just too good offensively. But go ahead.
And then I have St. Mary's, Arizona in the Elite Eight. I just like how St. Mary's plays.
You got Arizona going to the Final Four?
Yes.
I do as well. I have Arizona beating North Carolina to go to the Final Four. Adam?
For now, I have Arizona over UNC. We'll see.
3 Arizonas. Make it Zonas wild, Sheridan.
You guys are gonna like me. I have New Mexico in the Final Four.
Get the
Hell yeah.
I am a Mountain West junkie. I've officially declared that I am creating a Mountain West burner account on Twitter or X next year for the basketball season.
New Mexico in the Final Four is awesome.
They will play Nevada in the Sweet 16 too, by the way. Nevada will be Arizona.
We'll play Nevada.
Nevada's gonna beat Arizona. All right.
Well, this region is the most susceptible region to have the double-digit seed losses, as we talked about. You have Charleston beating Bama. Adam's got Colgate beating Baylor. These are all solid double-digit seeds that could potentially move on and make a run compared to other regions. So I'm taking my chances with this one.
I don't hate that at all, Sheridan. You got to just put your nuts on the table sometimes. Will it work out? Almost definitely not. But the good thing about having a recorded word is if you do get it right, then like you can just be like, yeah, I said that for our listeners to hear. I don't know, anything else from this region before we move on? So we got 3 zonas and a New Mexico.
Yep. Nope, I think we're good.
Let's go back up south. Sure, you got Longwood taking on Houston?
I mean, I've got my facts based on penis size. Penis talked about colleges, but St. Peter's, Oral Roberts, and FDU in the past. But I've got Houston, and just will say this is the craziest region I've seen in a while. A lot of great teams in this region.
You think so? I guess the team
Houston,
of 3
Duke,
solid.
Kentucky.
I think the 4 or 5 in this region is the lightest of the regions.
I end this region
I guess if Kansas isn't healthy, but
I end this region pretty simply. In terms of first round upsets, I have JMU, but after that, pretty simple. Tyler Kolek fan here. We'll see what happens with his injury, but I'm pretty confident.
I'm so torn on that Sweet 16 game. Right now, I have Kentucky in the Final Four to cut to the chase, but my problem is just like, is Tyler healthy? Do you have insider info?
No.
I don't know if he is. There's like conflicting reports. And oblique is tough. Doesn't that like bother you as long as like before you just like rest it?
Yeah, I don't really have much knowledge of an oblique and how long that takes, but I would assume it's very painful because I know Tyler is a tough MFer.
Yeah, for him to sit out the Big East tournament, I feel like they probably had to like.
Yeah, they probably had to chain him down.
Like, yeah, exactly.
So
do you have them?
I have Houston beating Marquette in the Elite Eight.
Damn, chalky Swider. I got Kentucky over Houston in the Elite Eight. For no other reason than my take recently on the podcast that Kentucky's one of the more entertaining teams of our lifetime. So I'm just going to ride that out. Although I think there's very susceptible to losing to like Oakland in the first round. But you know what? Sometimes you just got to like stand by a take and live by it. And that's my entire bracket. So
what do you guys feel about the Vermont Duke game? Because I was very conflicted over this one.
It won't be a game. I'm not worried.
Game.
Really?
Flip has turned into a villain. I think this is going to be a good run for Duke. They definitely have a chance to win the national championship. But I also,
my
Patty,
God,
to cut to the
that's
chase.
a
To
bad
chase,
take.
I have them losing to Houston. Houston loses to Kentucky. Kentucky goes to the Final Four. Western
All right,
Kentucky
so we're
beats
lying
Marquette.
there. That might be all I needed to hear to change to Marquette. Thank you, Sheridan. But Duke, I think Duke is, if they're like down one at halftime, the problem with Duke all year is like they've been, I don't want to throw the soft word around, but they seem to have like some like immaturity issues at times. So I think if
I think the proper term for that. I think the proper term for that, Patty, is just a front runner. They're front runners.
Yeah. Like, if they start hot, if they're hitting threes, I don't know. I almost think, like, McCain is the guy that kind of has to put them on his back if they're, like, going to actually make a run.
Yeah.
But no, long story short, I have them losing to JMU in the second round at Barclays.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on that.
Should we move this along? So, Swider, Houston, me, Kentucky, Lewis, Houston? We'll review these as we get to the Final Four.
Sorry. No, I have Marquette winning over Houston.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
I like that. Shared in Kentucky.
Let's head over to the Midwest region, Patty. Tell me some of your picks.
Know what I don't understand, to like just get this out there or to make this observation? Why is it East, West, South, Midwest? Why isn't it East, West, North, South? You know what I mean? Like it feels like they're just making
where would the games be if it was North?
I don't know. Like they could just name the region North.
No,
You know
but
what I
like Midwest, like there's a bunch of teams in the Midwest, and it's way more of like a like.
Okay, then why is the South region playing at Barclays Center? That's the Northeast region of the country.
Well, it doesn't matter until the Sweet 16.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I always thought it was based on the first round of the games.
No.
Wait, so where's the South playing? And so then why isn't the North? Why don't they put a North and then it's like Boston or the Carrier Dome? I feel like this is like
that would be the East.
People aren't talking
about.
That
would be the East. That would be the East.
Okay, then why isn't? Never mind. We should move on. I feel like people are going to agree with that take. But any notable upsets here? I have one based on injuries that just came out.
Pat, do you think any team will have jet lag in the tournament, or?
Yeah, if you fly from Boston to where's the Midwest games? I don't even know. So like, you're telling me like Kansas or no? Who's a team? Wisconsin flying to Barclays. And it's a 1 hour difference. They can claim jet lag if they lose to JMU, who's not going to have jet lag.
No, I'm not saying they're claiming. I was just asking you if jet lag is going to play a factor.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like,
but what if they drove there? Would they still be able to claim jet lag?
Why can't they say drive? Why isn't drive lag a thing? That's why I think you guys just subscribe to this theory that like the wool is being pulled over your eyes. That jet lag is not really a thing. Or jet lag is a thing, no matter, like every time you get on a plane.
Patty, there's no way you're arguing this again.
I'm not arguing. You brought it up.
And
Midwest
you're holding
region.
your ground. I don't know.
Midwest region.
Sanford. What's the Sanford mascot? The Bulldog. I've been beating Kansas.
Yeah, so do
out.
I agree.
I think Kansas kind of sucks as it is. So I got them over Kansas.
I got Kansas pulling it together. I got Kansas pulling it together and finding a way. I got Gonzaga beating McNeese, Kansas beating Sanford. Oregon's going to beat the shit out of South Carolina.
Agreed.
I agree.
Yep.
I think South Carolina
too physical. South Carolina's an overseeded squad.
Yeah, I don't think they're that good. What's up with the NCAA just loving like the South Carolina schools this year? Right?
Oh, good point. Clemson.
Yeah.
I always think Clemson's North Carolina, but it is South Carolina.
I obviously have Creighton, and then I have whoever wins Virginia, Colorado State. I have them beating Texas. I think Texas is so overseeded. I don't think they're a good team. I don't think they're well coached. And yeah.
Yeah, listen, all I'm going to say is if they do lose, we're not doing the horns down on this podcast.
No,
We might get
absolutely
our
not.
ass kicked.
I'm a Texas football fan, so
Oh, true, yeah. Right after they made the playoff.
yeah.
Lewis, Sheridan, anything to note? First round upsets?
I'll go first. I agree with Gonzaga, Kansas. Gonzaga beats Kansas, though. I have Tennessee going all the way over Purdue to make it to the final.
Tennessee, Final Four?
Yeah.
Okay. Adam, Final Four pick.
Yeah,
Work through this.
I have Creighton over Gonzaga. And I
Nice.
have in the first round Oregon as well. So I have the same upsets as Swider, basically, except for the Virginia game.
Creighton over Gonzaga?
Yeah.
You got Gonzaga in the Elite Eight.
No, I have Gonzaga losing to Kansas.
I don't have Kansas
uh,
winning the first round, so that's where we split.
But like Gonzaga
I'm
hasn't been a
aligned
good
with
team all
Haley.
year.
Well, let's base all of our picks off logic. That happens every year in the March Madness.
I just don't think Gonzaga's a good team, and I think that when they play against, obviously they have a really good big man. I don't know, I forget what his name is, but I think him and Dickinson will be a good matchup in the second round. But I don't know. I just don't think they're a very good team. I got Purdue beating Creighton in the Elite Eight.
I got Creighton beating Purdue, so flip that. I do have Gonzaga in the Sweet 16, though, because they make it to the Sweet 16 every single year.
This is the first year since Carson Edwards 2019 Purdue that I haven't picked them to win at all because I was waiting for it to happen. And,
Really?
And Jake texted me last year when they got dropped in the first round and said, "You better not pick these guys next year." And I was this close to doing it, but I'm not doing it. I have them losing in the Sweet 16, so that's my
I do
change
think
this year.
it's different this year because their guards are way better. But
It's the same guards, just a year later.
right,
I think
Just
I
like-
think it comes down to who they play. I think if they get Utah State, they win, but they get banged up a little. I know it's a week off, or maybe a little bit less than a week off. If they get TCU, they'll dominate because TCU is such a smaller team than Utah State. I do think that they can get farther than they have in the past, but I don't think they can get over the hump and make it to the Final Four.
I'm dying for them to be like down 2 at halftime in the 116 game. That'd be the funniest shit ever. People forget that happened to Virginia.
Speaking of
People probably also don't forget that because we talked about that on the last episode.
Speaking of that, if history does repeat itself, Purdue should win the national championship as Virginia went on to
Right.
lose and then win the following year.
A redemption story.
Okay,
All right, let's recap. Final Fours.
Yep. So let's start with Jake.
Yeah, Sheridan, go ahead.
I have Iowa State
Mexico.
versus New Mexico. Iowa State wins. Defense, love Iowa State. And I have Tennessee over Kentucky in an SEC showdown.
Wow.
Tennessee goes on to win, beats Iowa State, low scoring game again because of defense.
So you got Tennessee cutting the nuts down? Lewis, you go ahead.
I have Auburn over Arizona, and I'm sorry, Auburn over Arizona in the Final Four, and then Marquette over Creighton, and then I have Marquette winning it all.
I like that.
I love it. I love
I
it.
really wanted to pick that pick.
I love it. Paddy, go ahead.
I have UConn, Arizona winning. Fun fact, this will be a home game for Arizona. Final Four is in Glendale.
Yep.
So I have Arizona, Creighton in the final. Creighton over Kentucky in the other semifinal. I'm explaining this as confusing as possible, but my national championship is Arizona versus Creighton with Arizona winning it all. Not in love with the pick, but if you'll remember about a month and a half ago, that solo episode that I did, that was one of my takes that they were going to win the national championship. My reasoning is, remember last year at UConn, like right before, after like the PK 90 and all that? It's like, oh, UConn's easily the best team in the country, and then they tripped up during conference play. I feel like Arizona was not on that quite level, but they got to number one in the country, and everyone's like, Arizona's awesome. And then they kind of like threw everyone off the scent for a while, so.
Yeah.
Swider, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm pretty chalky here, which scares me. But
What are you, 1-2-1-1?
I am 1-2-1-1. Yep.
Okay.
UConn, Arizona, Houston, Purdue. I got UConn beating Arizona. and I got Purdue beating Houston, and then I got Purdue winning the national championship over UConn. Zach Edey brings it home, and Matt Painter gets his first national championship.
Another redemption story.
Yep.
That would be kind of cool, but also they're pretty brutal to watch. So, I don't know. Any other notables from the tournament? We can revisit this after the tourney, after each round, actually, to kind of see where we went wrong.
Before you joined, I was talking to Cole and Adam, and it kind of just negates everything Adam just said about Marquette. I have them losing first round to Western Kentucky.
Really? Any reasoning at all? They're just trying.
My reasoning is I gave it to them. I'm not going to break it down now. It's a lot. Western Kentucky's the fastest team in the tournament, but they also foul the most and turn the ball over the most. And Marquette's ranked 162 in the country for pace of play. And they're banged.
Oh, so you're backing this up with actual stats.
Yeah, and they're all banged up. I hope, obviously, I'm not one of those guys I have Western Kentucky. I hope Kolek doesn't play. I really hope he plays. He's a star. But either way, for me, it's a game that would like to see an upset, but I have Florida beating either team in the next round.
Jake, that game is 2:00 on Friday. I will be sitting down next to you on the couch upstairs watching Marquette win by 30. And you can quote me on that.
I hate to break it to you, Adam. I have to run a wiffle ball training on Friday, so I will miss college basketball.
A wiffle ball training?
Yeah.
Who are you training for wiffle ball?
Just have to train the officials that are on our staff of the rules of the game, and
That is outrageous that you scheduled it during a
I don't schedule
Friday.
these. Are you kidding me? This whole 3-4 weeks will be no intramural sports if it was up to me. But I don't make the rules.
What a sentence that just came out of your mouth.
Wiffle ball training. What, you need umps in wiffle ball?
Well, I mean, you guys don't know how I don't know if you know how intramurals is run.
Oh, we don't know ball?
No, how intramurals is run, being varsity athletes here at Syracuse. I'm an intramural athlete, to say the least. But I'm a supervisor, so I don't really officiate games or sports. We hire officials to do that. And usually, most of the times, officials are linked to one sport, so we have to train them for the other sports that they would be working on.
It's fascinating stuff, really. We should always.
That's good potting. That is just good potting. But, all right, any other notables from the tournament?
I think we're good on the tournament, Paddy. Thank you guys for putting your input on there. Last thing before we wrap up, Paddy, we talked about it in the group chat a little bit. There's a new podcast out there. I think it's gonna blow up. New competitor. Not really, but JJ Redick and LeBron James came out with a podcast called Mind the Game Podcast. The podcast, this is a little insider information, stems from JJ Redick's comments of how he breaks down a game and he gets 20,000 views, but when he rips Doc Rivers, he gets 5 million views. And the whole entire idea behind people really don't care about the X and O's of basketball rather than the drama. So his idea was to talk to LeBron, have a 5-part podcast of real basketball talk and just talking the game of basketball, the mentality, and all these different things, right? The first episode dropped last night, or this morning, actually. Mm-hmm. And all I could see on
Tuesday, yeah.
All I could see on ESPN today was just talking about LeBron's comments of just little things throughout. Did you get to watch the episode? B, what did you think, Paddy?
I listened to it. I didn't watch it. I listened to it during the workday. I was actually going to ask you that. Did the idea stem after he said that, or did he make that comment about what you're referring to with the Doc Rivers thing? Did he already know that this podcast is in the works?
No. So that idea stemmed after.
So they put it together after that. I was actually thinking that because I give him a lot of credit for actually, making that claim and then putting action to it. And there's no better way to do that than to get probably the smartest basketball player of all time to make some comments. Because even today, I was so ready to be a hater of it. Honestly, I was going into it with a negative mindset, and
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It just, having LeBron sit down, and I mean, you know him, so it's different, but having, like, one of the best athletes of all time, the most scrutinized athlete ever, to sit down and do, like, a long form. I know he does, like, stuff around Interrupted, but I don't know, it's different on a podcast when it's just one, or, like,
It's
a
very
two-person
different.
conversation. It's just, like, a really cool thing. Everything he said, I was, like, hanging on every single word that he said. It was also not as, I thought it might be, like, a little, like, mansplaining with certain, like, actions and everything like that, but they did, I don't know, they dumbed it down in a way, but also it's not the most difficult thing to understand. Like some of the actions and stuff they were talking about, I think anyone could listen to it, and like actually learn a lot about the game. And the other thing I was thinking of from a perspective of like, if football players did that, I don't know anything about football, but if like, say if Tom Brady had a podcast with someone else and he broke down football like that, I'd be like, this is sweet. Like I'm actually learning like basic concepts of football.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think JJ Redick did a really good job before the episode even started, especially if you watched the episode, of breaking down. He did literally like the X and O's on a sheet of some of the things that they were talking about. And obviously you have a pretty good eye for basketball, right? I think the language is a little bit different in the NBA. Just talking about these different actions and step-up screens and all these different things. Thumb down action, base OB, all these different things. And I think for me, it's awesome because I get to learn, right? And I get to like hear like what I heard last year, but in podcast form, and hearing it from JJ Redick's perspective too, being an elite shooter. So I loved it. I also think like both those guys have like an innate ability to like make whatever they say sound like super important.
Right.
Which always attracts listeners and always attracts people to like tune into an episode. So I love the first episode. I think both those guys do have an unbelievable basketball IQ. It's funny hearing JJ Redick talk about like the defensive side of the basketball so much, even though he's remembered as an offensive player and an elite shooter. But it makes sense though, because for him to even be on the court, he had to know everything that was going on and be able to read stuff before it even happened. So I thought it was really cool. I think the one clip that kind of went viral was the base OB, especially with all the basketball heads, was the base OB coverage for the Americas play that I run all the time. And when I heard it first, I was like, I don't know if I really like agree with that, because I'm thinking anytime like people switch like that, it's usually like a slip to the basket for like a wide open dunk. But when watching Michigan State do it in the thing that I sent you guys in the group chat, it was like, wow, this is actually very effective.
Yeah, that part was cool. But yeah, like you're saying, I mean, hearing LeBron say anything, it just like kind of comes with this profoundness that if someone else said it, then it wouldn't be as cool. The other thing, I was gonna say with the first episode, like, it was kind of technical at the start, and he explained some like terminology that you said that they brought up kind of just in the course of conversation, but most of it, I mean, 99% of the conversation was about like the mindset of going into a game, like what makes it, the title of the episode is what makes a great basketball player, but it's not as like concept driven as I thought it was going to be based on that the baseline out of bounds clip, which hearing LeBron talk about that was very, very cool.
Paddy, was there anything that you took away from that where you're like, oh, like I have something different that makes a great basketball player, or anything that you've seen from players that you've been around that you could have as a driving quality or characteristic of a great basketball player?
For my men's league, it's like it's all kind of cliche stuff, but again, hearing LeBron say it is different. I'm trying to think of off the top of my head what he said. What were his three reasons? I know it's like sacrifice, love of the game.
He said knowing the history of the game.
Yeah, that was my favorite part.
Yeah. Because
the fact that he brought that up as someone like, obviously who's gotten to the point that he has, and he said like that's very important to know. I don't know. I thought that was very cool. Because there are a lot of guys that like there's a bunch of eras comparison and everything like that. So the fact that he understands that and like approaches basketball that way, I don't know. I think it says a lot about why he is who he is. And like, if I were a player, I would definitely take a lot from that.
Yeah. I think obviously J.J. Redick's third point, he had two of the similar ones, but just the IQ of the game. Every single elite player that I've been around, if that's Jimmy Butler, if that's LeBron, if that's Anthony Davis, if that's Russell Westbrook, if that's even a guy like Dennis Schroeder or Bam, Duncan, like all these guys have elite basketball IQs, and I think that's such a. I think having an elite basketball IQ can raise your ceiling and potential of being able to play, even when your body or talents may not have that same type of gifts.
Yeah.
I think Jimmy is one of the best basketball minds in our sport. Jimmy is unbelievable. He's able to break down things, and it's hard for Jimmy sometimes because like LeBron talks about, like guys coming out of an ATO and not understanding where they are. Like
Yeah.
it's just so sometimes it's just so simple to him that he doesn't get why other players don't get it. Right? And I also thought another interesting point was they talked about how can a basketball IQ be developed over time.
I was going to ask you that.
I've always been under the impression where I agree. I think you can get up to a certain point. I think like there's a point where I think there's like a surface level of where you need to be. Like there's like a bottom tier of where you can be, and then like you can go up from there, right? If you're here, like it's hard to get up to like that like surface level,
Baseline,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So,
But what they talked about, like, do you think it's innate, or do you think it's coaching when you're a young kid? Like, do you think it's playing a lot? Do you think it's the competition you play against? Like, what do you think goes into that?
Yeah, I think it's coaching from a young age. I think a lot of it's just being able to process information at a high level.
Right.
And I don't know what that metric is where you can kind of, because a lot of these guys like weren't great students, so you can't measure it can't be a metric towards school, right? And I know plenty of guys who are really smart in school but don't have a great basketball IQ.
Right.
Being able to see things on the fly and your reaction skills, and that's something that I try and work on all the time with just like little games and reaction games and just trying to like just get my brain speed going. And that's a big word that Spo uses all the time. It's like your brain speed has to be at a very high level to play in the NBA, right? So yeah, I think all the things they said are very applicable. I agree with almost everything that they said. Obviously, when it's coming from those two basketball minds, it's pretty easy to agree with them. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be an unbelievable 5.
It's only
episodes.
5 parts, you said?
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Damn! I thought it was like just a pod like ours is now.
No.
But shout out to them, for growing the game, the player pod market. People are saying it's getting oversaturated, but I don't know. What's the quote about rising? Rise all tides. What's that one? Lewis, you know it.
I actually have no idea what you're talking about. You're on your own, please.
I think it's like rising tide lifts all ships or some shit like that.
Rising tide lifts all boats.
Is that what Google says?
That's what Wikipedia says. I don't know. You're the one that said
all
it.
right, let's end on that. I know exactly. I got my point across. You want to end there?
Appreciate all you guys listening today. Obviously, a little bit of a longer episode, but well worth listening. Shout out to you guys, and we'll be back to talk about these picks later on a later date.
Yeah, everyone enjoy March Madness. For all the people that are listening to this that are 9-to-5ers like myself, big time work from home day. So while you're watching the first round, just tell your friends to flip on the Swider Show and drown out some of the bad announcing that's going on during the games. We'll see you next week.
I'm reckless, I'm dumb, according to you, but you don't know shit, you don't know how I move. I'm rolling, I'm smoking the deuce. I ain't telling lies, baby, you know that I'm the truth.